members of the community got turkeys as well. So we did have it this year, and it was successful. All right. Item number 3, the Christmas party contact information. Those of you who signed up last week, and those of you for donations, and also those of you who signed up to be volunteers, the people who signed up.
Wanted to build a mosque 1 block away from the World Trade Center. Okay. Now there's a mosque, what, 3 blocks away, right? From the World Trade Center. But it caused a lot of arguments, and it was probably the hottest issue that affected the city. So without any further ado, I give to you the chairperson of Community Board number 1, Ms. Julie Menon.
Introduction, and I want to thank Keith and Wilma and all of you for so graciously inviting me here tonight. It's fantastic to be here. What I really want to do is talk a little bit about this issue of the Islamic Cultural Center and Mosque, because many people ask me, how did this issue even happen? Why was it on the front page of the paper day in and day out, all throughout the spring and the summer? So what I thought I would do is tell you a little bit behind the scenes about how we dealt with the issue and what happened. So in April of this year, I got a call from a group called the Cordoba Initiative. This is a group that wanted to build a 13-story community center. 11 stories would be a community center with a pool and basketball courts and other community facilities. The ground 2 stories would be a mosque. So they came to us, and I sent it to one of our committees. We unanimously approved the project. This mosque, the group that wanted to do the project, had been in the Lower Manhattan community for 23 years. They had been operating a mosque 10 blocks away from Ground Zero. So they wanted to move from 10 blocks away from Ground Zero to 2.5 blocks away from Ground Zero, and that's why they came to the community board. I sent it to one of our committees. The committee unanimously approved it. After all, this is about freedom of religion. Our country was founded by people who were escaping religious persecution. So here was a group that wanted to build a house of worship. And who are we as a government to say no? The New York Post was at that meeting, and a couple other outlets, but I'll single out the Post. So the next day, I open up my paper, and the headline is, Community Board approves mega mosque at Ground Zero. Now, the mosque is not at Ground Zero, it's 3.5 blocks away. And as all of us New Yorkers know, 3.5 blocks is quite a large distance than in the suburbs. It's a very significant distance. And the other factor that was very interesting about the headline is it said that we approved a mega mosque. This is not a mega mosque. This was a community center that had a mosque on the first 2 stories, and this mosque had been in the neighborhood for quite a long time. So for those of you who have been to community board meetings or who serve on the community board, you know that after the committee votes, it then goes to the full board. So there was 3 weeks before it went to the full board. And that's when the controversy started. Because the New York Post headline then got to Sarah Palin, and then it got to Newt Gingrich. And then all of these national politicians came into my community and told us what our destiny should be. They never had even been to Lower Manhattan. They've never even looked at the project. And let me say, these are the same conservatives that do not want government in healthcare, but they want the government to turn down this project. It's completely intellectually dishonest, and it's flat wrong. So our community board stood up, and we voted for this 29-1. And it was not an easy vote, because I will tell you, I'm Jewish. I have people on the board who are Orthodox, who have some concerns, I will say, about the project. But I got a 29-1 vote with 10 abstentions from the board. But after that point, that is when we started getting death threats. And these were not mild death threats. These were very serious death threats. I have, as Keith knows, 3 little boys who I absolutely adore, who are wonderful. And these were the kind of death threats about my boys and about myself. If this is happening in America, it's totally unacceptable. And now what we're seeing is in Staten Island, that community turned down a mosque. In Sheepshead Bay in Brooklyn, they're opposing a mosque. We've got to remember that Muslims are 1/5 of the world's population. It wasn't Muslims who attacked us, it was Al-Qaeda who attacked us. But Bill O'Reilly is out there every day talking about how Muslims attacked us. You know, that's just wrong. It's bigotry and it's intolerance, and we need to stand up in the face of it. So I'm very proud that our community board stood up on this issue. It wasn't an easy issue. It was all over the headlines, and it was obviously very difficult. Over the summer, as you probably read, a guy by the name of Pastor Jones from Florida threatened to come up in my neighborhood and burn the Quran on 9/11, on the day when our community was attacked. We still have a 16-acre hole in the heart of our community, and this guy wants to come up and burn the Quran. So I decided to write an op-ed in the Daily News suggesting that several stories of this project be an interfaith center where Jews and Christians and Muslims could all worship. Because the best way that we can fight the opponents of this project is to say that Jewish people and Christians and Muslims, they're all going to worship there, and it's not some extremist type of group. And so thankfully that idea has now been incorporated into the project, and it's going to happen. So I really wanted to come to talk to all of you tonight, and I really appreciate the invitation because this issue is unfortunately not over. When you have communities in other parts of the city that are routinely turning down these projects, and when polls said that 70% of New Yorkers oppose this project, 70%, we know we really have a long ways to go. So I'm happy to answer any questions about it, but I also, if I have a few extra minutes, want to talk about one other issue, which is the 9/11 terror trial. Because while we were fighting for the mosque, the other thing that we stood up for earlier in the year is fighting having the trial of 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in our neighborhood. So many of you might have followed this issue closely when it hit the press in January. But basically what happened is the Justice Department decided to try this trial in our community. It would have involved 2,000 security checkpoints. Not one checkpoint, not two checkpoints, 2,000. That was the NYPD plan. So in January, I sat through, Commissioner Kelly gave a presentation of the plan, and he puts up these slides, and it shows 2,000 checkpoints. And everyone's nodding their head and saying, okay. The mayor the next day, the price tag comes out that it's going to be $200 million. $200 million of our money, taxpayer money, to do this trial downtown. The mayor says, this is a great idea. So I decided that it was honestly one of the stupidest ideas I've ever heard.
What happened to the Jews? It's the same type of propaganda. We must have a boogeyman. We must have a scapegoat. So now the new scapegoat is not communists. The new scapegoat now are Muslims. And we should be very careful of the propaganda that's going on. And I think the Jewish community ought to be cognizant of it because it wasn't long ago before they were demonized in the press by Hitler. We have now the Klan who dress in suits. They don't wear, that's old. I mean, they're in top positions in this city and throughout this country. So they need a scapegoat. And we have to be cognizant of it. We must destroy what they're trying to do to pit citizen against citizen. And let me tell you something. Study Bosnia. Those people loved each other until they wanted to, ethnic cleansing. And he used that and they turned on each other. The mind is very weak when sometimes when it comes to problems. I'm going to say this. The Vietnamese said something. We are not afraid of America's bombs or tanks. The greatest weapon America has or have is propaganda.
Yes.
So we need to watch what's in the Post, in the news. I'm serious. Who owned those papers? Murdoch. No one owned the Daily News. So let us be cognizant of saying, well, what is the solution? We need to write more ourselves and speak out and call out senators, congressmen, or whatever, and write op-ed in the paper like the sister did, or emails, or whatever. And this will solve this problem.
Peace.
Because they're demonizing our brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Well said,
Tom.